Hey everybody, it's Mike for the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios and brought to you by our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international award-winning author Mia Molson's The Missing, available on Amazon and paperback and ebook. We're here with an amazing lady who's a singer-songwriter who grew up in Denver, Colorado, and she's kind of a Hollywood glam throwback and now living in Los Angeles and has toured throughout the U.S. and Asia, performing at White Party, Las Vegas, and also the matinee as well too. She began her career at quite a young age in church and a competitive dancer. Headed the Colorado Contemporary Dance Company. She was featured on So You Think You Could Dance season 9 at 19. Become a member of She, and she also ventured into singing as well too. She did Maybe Just Love Me, also Escape, AEIOU, also Everything Girl as well too, and also has a new album called Red Umbrella featuring Lost Without You, and we'll try to get that in for you along with some other music. Live, ladies and gentlemen, from Plus Studios in beautiful downtown Baltimore, the singer-songwriter, now in Los Angeles, dancer, and also has the new release Red Umbrella. Ladies and gentlemen, the multi-talented Fia Nyxx. Fia, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us today.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me. That was quite the introduction. I feel so good about myself.
And of course, you're putting on the glamour too. You're striking the poses, you can tell. And don't be afraid to keep doing that throughout the show. So, I mean, we need more glam in this life. I got to say that it's been lacking as of late, and we need more glam, just especially from you. So, don't be afraid to strike poses every single time. So, they'll be
I love
appreciated.
it. I love it. I mean, I agree. The world needs a little more glam. There's a lot of craziness going on. So I always try to like throw on a little sparkle and, be that bright shining lights even when, things are hard.
And certainly did as well too. And we'll talk more about that. You're a singer songwriter group in Denver. You're now in Los Angeles, and you tour throughout the U.S. and Asia, performing at White Party, Las Vegas, and also began a career at a young age. And you're a competitive dancer. You held over a Colorado dance company, and you're featured on So You Think You Can Dance, the season 9 at 19. Become a member of She. You also had some music like Maybe Just Love Me, Escape, AEIOU. You had Everything Girl, the album, and you have a new release called Red Umbrella featuring Lost Without You and more. And before getting to all that, Fia, tell us how you first got started.
Well, I mean, I think I was just that's a loaded question. I think I was just a born entertainer and performer from a young age. So even at the age of 3, I was running
Wow.
around the living room singing, "Mom, watch me." I wrote a song. Of course, it wasn't anything good, but we would just play and I would dance and sing. And I just always had this kind of creative nature about me. But it was only really in my comfort zone. So when I was at home, when I was around people I knew well and loved, but when I was out in public, I was actually really, really shy.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so my mom was like, I don't know, like what we're gonna do with her to like get her. Like I was so shy to the point where it was like painful to talk to people. Like I would be hiding behind my parents, like cowarding while they're trying to introduce me to people. Like I was very, very like withdrawn.
hmm
But then, in my comfort zone, the comfort of my home, I was this wild child. So my mom thought to put me in dance. There was like a free dance class that was offered like up the street. And from that moment on, that first dance class, that was all she wrote. I just immediately like took to it. I just loved to be on stage. I loved music, anything that got you moving, that got your heart thumping. I just naturally was drawn to that, and I really owe dance specifically, for getting me out of my shell. So I continued to dance all through my childhood, and then eventually, worked kind of in tandem with, another friend of mine, and we created the Colorado Dance, Contemporary Company, which is still actually going on, and we danced, like, all through high school, into, like, college, and into, like, our professional dance life. And then at a pretty young age, around, like, 19, 20, I moved out to LA to pursue dance, and ended up having a short run on So You Think You Can Dance, which kind of just launched me into a different kind of realm of entertainment. So at that
hmm
point, I was signed to an agent and I started to tour and I started to dance for lots of major like A-list artists and kind of became this backup dancer, with a pretty successful career pretty quickly. So that kind of launched my experience on stage and touring, and I really got a taste of what that life was. But I at the same time, I wanted more. And being that, I grew up in church, I was always singing, never really with the idea to pursue it, to be honest with you. I just loved to sing. But I was such a dancer, I had to pursue dance. I wanted to be successful as a dancer. So I just never really thought about pursuing singing, but I always sang. I sang in church, I sang in the shower, I sang in the car, like anywhere I could. And I just had, my idols. I loved Christina Aguilera, and that girl, she can sing. So I
And
was
dance, yes.
and dance. And so I was always kind of emulating her, singing her songs, and I had quite a voice on me, but just didn't really ever do anything with it. And so a few years into living in LA, I ended up auditioning for which was a girl group through Interscope Records. And I ended up getting it and being the third of three girls. And that is what kind of launched my music career.
That's interesting. And what was that one precise moment that simply influenced you into what you're doing for the rest of your career? What was that one moment that simply said, this is it?
I think that one moment, honestly, was something that happened for me. It was actually, up until this particular moment, I had always thought, like I said, that I was a dancer and this was my biggest passion in life and that was my calling. But as a matter of fact, the very first time I stepped into a recording studio and I was alone in the sound booth, just me, myself, and my voice. The first time I did that and I got to put the headphones on and just sing, that was the first time I was really expressing myself in that way professionally. I just something clicked. I knew this is it. As much as I thought like, I had reached my greatest potential and my greatest passion, and I had found it, this just blew everything out of the water. There was nothing that felt quite as incredible and fulfilling and magical as that moment in that sound studio. Hearing myself being, when you're in a sound booth, you're just so enclosed, and all that you're really, your senses, it's dark, so your senses are muted as far as like your eyes and everything else. So it's really just about the sound. And so it was just this first time I was hearing myself, I was projecting, I was just so encapsulated by the experience. And I just, in that moment, I was like, this is it. This is what I want to do. And I wasn't even that good at the time, to be honest.
And
But I
look at you
just
now. You put on the glam for it. So
exactly, exactly. So, you just have to keep it didn't even matter though, because it wasn't about being good. It was about fulfilling a passion, and it was just the way it made me feel and the way it made my heart soar. I was like, I need more of this. This is what life is about, is feeling this feeling as much as we can. There can only come good from that. What we choose to do with that is going to just it can only be something good. So I just knew that was it for me.
And besides Christina Aguilera, who are some other favorite singers, performers, dancers, and
Oh yeah.
musicians that your favorites and you grew up with?
Absolutely. Well, growing up, it was honestly, it was a lot of like all the pop music was so big at the time because it was Britney Spears and it was like Christina, and then it was just all these like females that were just kind of doing something that was pretty revolutionary at the time. It was very sexy and it was fun and it was out there, and it was causing quite a ruckus. And so I
Hmm.
just actually loved those like powerful females, and also they could, like you said, they could dance, they could entertain. And so growing up, those were kind of my girls. And then I kind of, as I got more into music and the history of music and like kind of where these voices came from and what they were inspired by, I started to fall in love with like the Motown era, like Etta James and Aretha Franklin and those women then, because they were just singing from the heart, and it was just so soulful. And I've just always had a thing for like soul and blues music, anything with like a grit and like a real kind of rawness to it. Back when they literally recorded on 2 tracks and you had one take, and it wasn't, you couldn't just auto tune the shit out of it. Like those
Hmm.
people were like,
Right. And I know it's a lot of it too. And I'm glad you don't auto tune, which is good.
yeah. No, I'm like, I gotta work for it. If I can't hit something, if it doesn't sound good, I need to go do my homework. But I
Hmm.
love them, and then, it continued to evolve. I love anyone who's honestly, I like the legends, the people who perform, do things we have never seen. Queen is one of my favorite all-time bands. Um, Prince, There is no better performer. I just like someone who encapsulates everything from the singing to the lyrics to the songs to the performances. When you go, if we were lucky enough, or if I had been lucky enough to see Prince, I know that would have been an experience, you know? It's just so profound. There will never be anyone like him ever again. So I like those artists that just take it to another level.
And of course, speaking of taking another level, you pretty much do the same thing with Everything Girl, the debut album featuring
You.
Maybe Just Love Me, Escape, Oh God, Moving On, and more. You got Red Umbrella on the way as well, too, featuring Lost Without You. We'll talk about that music with Fia Nyxx. But first, listen to the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com, powered by Sonic Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. It's 1-800-303-3960, or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show, get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, time to give an official shout out to our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson-Zia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, you'll love Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon and paperback and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. Takes place in 4 countries, 2 strangers, 1 target, where truth is illusion and those you love will be the first go missing. It's available on Amazon and paperback and ebook. Missing by Mia Molson-Zia has garnered great reviews. And Eve 11 enjoys by Howard celebrities, including Joanna Cassidy, Forbes Riley, and Eminem. So grab your copy today for it goes Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon. Also, check out the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com and 40 podcast platforms. Heard in 100 countries, including Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio, Anchor FM, Apple Music, and also on Podbean as well, too, Stitcher, Radio Public, and more. Odyssey, and make sure you take us with you on any mobile device. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, LinkedIn. Subscribe to us on YouTube, BitChute, and Rumble. And for great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com. Check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. T-shirts, pop sockets, throw pillows, tote bags, hoodies. Makes great gifts 24/7. Go to Amazon.com. Check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. And for more great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com/Mia Molson-Zia for great books like Missing, Once, and Wrinkles. Also t-shirts, pop sockets, hoodies, phone cases, and more. Amazon.com/Mia Molson-Zia. Check it out today and support the Mike Wagner Show on Anchor FM, PayPal, and the MikeWagnerShow.com. We're here with the multi-talented singer-songwriter from Denver, Colorado, now and outside Baltimore, and has been in LA for quite some time. Fia Nyxx here on the Mike Wagner Show. Very multi-talented, putting on the glam as well, too. And speaking of glam, she's looking to, get into the business as well, too. She had Everything Girl, the album, also featuring from some tracks like Oh God, Moving On, Maybe Just Love Me, and also her latest release, Red Umbrella, featuring Lost Without You, Still Love You, and more. And before we get into all that, tell us about your debut album, Everything Girl, and all about the album. What inspired to write them?
Yeah, so Everything Girl, that was my first ever album. It was actually really the first songs I had ever written in general. I had been really lucky to come in contact with another writer producer through Sony who kind of took me under his wing and introduced me to his team and started writing these songs with me. And basically, I came to him with like a body of like, I want to say it was like 15, 16 songs that were
Mm-hmm.
more or less demos, nothing recorded, just like, written out. I write mainly on the piano. So just kind of scratch, written out with lyrics and ideas of melodies and such as that. And I brought them to him and said, okay, what do you think? And he loved them. So we just kind of took them one at a time and started turning them into, the full songs that you hear. And what was really incredible about that album, that was when I was really, really first diving into this kind of more soulful Motown inspired sound that I wanted to implement. And so we actually got a really incredible opportunity to go record these songs down in Muscle Shoals, Alabama at Fame Studios. And if you know anything about that, that was like kind of the birth of the Motown sound. That's where like all the legends recorded. All my favorites I mentioned, like Aretha and Etta James, and they all recorded there. And they actually have a group of musicians there that they call the Swampers.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've ever listened to that song, Sweet Home Alabama, It referred
Oh, yes, that is a
social has a
classic.
swamper. Yes.
Yes.
So these guys are like legends, and they have, been doing this and recorded on some of the songs, so many songs that like we still listen to today that we consider to be iconic and timeless. And so I actually got to go down there and record Everything Girl in its entirety with the Swampers and Will McFarlane, who is Bonnie Raitt's guitarist. He was our music director. He kind of oversaw the whole project. So I was, so new in the world of music. And, here I am working on my first album, and I'm working with people who have just been in the game for their entire lives, who are just they have, they're huge, huge names in the industry. And it was so cool because they were so like receptive of me and welcoming, and they loved what we were doing, and they just put their magic spin on it, and it just became the music you hear today, which I still, even though it was so many years ago and it was my first album, I'm still so proud of that music. I still think it's timeless, and I still think it's relevant. I've grown a lot since then as an artist, and I've continued to evolve, but that particular album and just that body of work will always be really near and dear to my heart.
And of course, let's get into some of the songs as well, too. You got Fine, Oh God, Moving On, and of course, the title track. Maybe just break down a few of the songs you like to talk about and what inspired to write those from the Everything Girl release.
Yeah, so actually Everything Girl, the actual single, the title single of the album, that was the very first song I ever wrote. And ironically, it's a funny story actually. I remember specifically, it was a really, really snowy day. And at this point, I was back in Denver for a little while. And I was snowed in, and it was just me and my dog, and I was like, "You know what? I wanna learn how to play some, like, basic blues chords." So I literally looked up on YouTube, like, what are some good, like, blues percussions? And I just, like, for the fun of it, got out my keyboard, just started learning some, like, basic blues percussions, and, naturally, as I'm, like, once I learn them, then I kinda change them, then I kinda see, like, what is the structure? How can I break it? And so then I just was playing with it, and I was, like, kinda humming along a little melody, and then I was like, "I need some words," so I just started saying, when a lot of people when they songwrite, or for me, I don't usually do the lyrics first. I'll do the melodies and just, you kinda just fill it in with, like, dee 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 da da da. You don't really say anything, particular. You're just trying to get the melody out. So I just kind of started like singing whatever was, coming to my mind, and my dog's laying right there. So I ended up writing this whole song about my dog, and it's funny, and it was campy and silly and like made no sense. But besides the lyrics themselves about my dog, it was a really good song. So I sent it to my best friend. I was like, "You got to hear this. This is actually kind of badass." And he was like, "Oh, this is really good, but you should change the lyrics." So, obviously, I was going to. But anyways, so he was like, "Yeah, it is really good. I've never heard you do anything like that." So then I sent it to my producer. He loved it. And then I was like, "Okay." So I rewrote the lyrics. And the whole premise of that album was to be this sort of idea of this like I'm every woman type of revamp. So, the everything girl, she is glamorous and she is fun and sexy, but she's also nurturing, and she's also humble, and she's also down to earth, and she's also religious and spiritual, hence the oh God. She's also like, it was this idea that I could be all those things and they could coexist within myself, which is something that I feel like a lot of times we don't really give ourselves that ability, or we don't allow ourselves we to do that. We often fall into like one niche or one, specific role, but this was the idea that like I am the everything girl just as much as you are. You know what I mean? So it was just a really cool way to kind of start that song. So that song is very fun. If you listen to the lyrics, it's very campy, but it's also just kind of true to like the way they used to write blues music. It was campy and it was fun, but it also like if you really dig into it, it has a deeper meaning in there. So that one in particular is probably my favorite off the album.
Mm. And speaking of blues, I also think of like Muddy Waters, Robert Johnson, and also
Oh yeah.
BB King, and I think there's
Oh,
also Buddy
yeah,
Guy too. So it's like you really go deep into it. And of course, Robert Johnson is the deep, deep, deep version of the blues.
absolutely. And see, yes, that's like the world that I wanted to sort of tap into, in my own way, in a way that made sense for me. But I feel like that song is probably the most bluesy. That one is very like kind of BB King inspired, actually. That one is the most true to that sound, I think, off the entire album. I know you also mentioned Maybe Just Love Me. I think across the board, that one was maybe a fan favorite. It's still so special to me as well. But I think across everyone else's opinion, that one seemed to really resonate. But that was a really special one, and we actually did an incredible music video to that song, which actually went on to win a Telly Award, which is over there. But
You said Telly Award. Can you reach over
yeah,
and show it to us?
yes, I can.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, we like to see it.
Yeah,
Okay, let's see.
kind of heavy.
Up close. Can you bring that up a little bit? Okay, we got that part. Now the bottom part. Let's see. The Telly Awards. Oh my gosh, that was amazing. Congratulations. A bronze award. Congrats.
Yeah, bronze. So it was more or less like third place, but it was a huge deal because at the time it was very much a grassroots project. I mean, being an independent artist, as I'm sure everyone who watches your show knows, is so expensive. And at the time, we're producing this album, we're traveling for recording and for shows, and we're putting on a tour, and it's just so expensive. And so I had this really grand idea for the music video. I had this really complex story I wanted to tell, and I had, in particular, one scene that I had never seen be done, and it was going to be really kind of wild if I was able to pull it off. And by the grace of God and so many miracles and so many like favors and friends and family, we were able to do it. But to my knowledge, it's the only ever choreographed contemporary dance routine on two moving escalators.
Huh.
So there's like, how like you see often in like arenas or big areas, there's like escalators going different ways, like one's going down and one's going up. So myself and my partner, we were dancing, each one of us on an escalator as it was moving, but like staying next to each other. So it was a really, really beautiful concept. But coming from being an independent artist, I had to go find that location. People were quoting me like $100,000 just to use a space like that. And
Huh.
then yeah, and then just obviously like that comes with like liabilities, and then you needed insurance, and it was such a bigger than myself and my team type of vision, but we pulled it off, and we did it on a fraction of that budget, and I was so proud of it and how good it turned out. And then for it to win that award just meant so much, because it was just this, symbolic that we made that happen.
And it sounds like it made it happen. Maybe think of Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers back in the days of
Absolutely.
MGM, the 20s and 30s, going up the stairs. And of course, for those on a budget, there's always a shopping mall you can do it on too. So
Yeah. We thought about that
and
too.
CGI. What's that?
We thought about that too. We're like, worst case, we're sneaking into a mall and we're just gonna have to do it real quick. But we ended up getting the Colorado Convention Center, which is a huge, amazing building. They actually just let us use it during one of their blackout days. I want to say they charged us for like the electricity that day that we used if we plugged anything in. I think the whole thing cost like a couple $100, but it's the most beautiful building, huge staircase. They just let us use it. And then we actually ended up, there's another scene in that video. You guys will have to go watch it now, but there's another scene in that video that's an actual escalator in a mall.
Huh.
And a similar thing happened. We ended up making friends, and then we had some people who ended up being extras because they just wanted to be involved. And it was just a really cool thing that came together. So when you watch it, you'll understand a little bit better. But it was a really cool thing to pull off and to watch come to fruition.
Oh my gosh, it makes me want to go shopping and go up the escalator. I love
Yeah, right.
that.
You'll never ride an escalator without thinking of that again. I know I don't.
That's exactly it. It's also led up to Red Umbrella, the latest release from Fia Nyxx featuring Lost Without. We were talking about that. You listen to the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios, and brought to you by official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson's The Missing. We'll be back with the multi-talented singer, songwriter, dancer Fia Nyxx after this time out. We're back with the multi-talented singer, songwriter, dancer Fia Nyxx on the Mike Wagner Show, and of course, we did the Everything Girl, being a dancer, and everything else. Now we move on to Red Umbrella, which is your latest and featuring Lost Without You. And tell us more about Red Umbrella and what inspired you to write them.
Absolutely. So Red Umbrella came to fruition actually during the pandemic. So when I was writing that album, I never set out to write it. So right before the pandemic, I had actually just booked and been assigned to a booking agent, a really, really great one, and had a full tour that was supposed to carry me through that entire next year. It was going to be the biggest tour of my career, which was saying a lot because I had already
Hmm.
toured Asia. I had done a lot of big performances, but this particular tour was going to be huge. And we had some really solid dates locked in. And so it was very, depressing when one by one those dates got canceled, and next thing you know, we're locked down and no one can leave their house, and it was a very, just like for everyone else, it was a very hard time. And because music was my outlet, I just kind of started writing, with no real intention to make another album at the time. I was still kind of riding high off of the first music release that I had done. So I just had kind of been, with myself and my thoughts, and just started writing these songs. And as fate would have it, I kind of reconnected with a friend of mine who I've been friends with for, like, at this point, almost 15 years. But we originally met as dancers. We actually toured together for an artist way back when as dancers. And little did I know, while I had been doing my music journey, he had also gotten into music. And so we kind of reconnected during the pandemic because we lived really close to each other.
Wow.
And yeah, and I found out that he's this incredible producer, and that's what I needed because I had also ended my contract for the term that we had agreed to from the first album, so I was kind of on my own again. And so him and I just connected, and I think that was probably the best thing that ever happened to me in my career because that was the first time that I really just felt free to do exactly what I wanted to do. Whereas with the first album, as incredible as it was to have all those big names, I very much felt like I was letting them lead, because I was so new and they were so great. But this go around, I had learned more. I knew more of who I was. I was ready to kind of step into that role a little bit more. And so Sam J. Garfield, who is my now producer and the producer of Red Umbrella, he really just ran with me on this one. So I brought him a song. We were just going to do one song. It was actually going to just be Still Love You. And
Hmm.
because it went so well, we did another song and another song. And next thing you knew, we had this body of work. And it's really cool because, again, with this project, it was much more cross genre. It wasn't ever meant to be, an album until it just became this beautiful body of work that made so much sense together. And it was really, when you listen to that, what you're hearing is quite literally everything I was going through in that year and a half. It's very much like from one song to the next, there's a streamline, there's a story there. But when you really just look at the big picture again, the overall message is kind of the same. It's still this message of me being this everything girl. So Red Umbrella shows all these different sides of me in the same way that Everything Girl did, except for now the sound also matches that. So the sound and the songs on Red Umbrella, they kind of capture all the different elements of who I am as a vocalist, as an entertainer, as a writer, whereas the first album was a little bit more one note, which again was great, but this one definitely kind of kicked the ceiling off and like did its own thing. So this album is much more eclectic. It's a little bit more of a representation of all the parts of who I am musically and as a person. But yeah, one song, Still Love You, turned into two, turned into three, turned into the album you hear now.
And of course, "Lost Without You" is the featured one, and tell us more about that one and what inspired you to write that one in particular.
Yes. So actually, Lost Without You, and this is so funny to me because everyone thinks this is an original song, but it's actually not. It's actually a cover of Robin Thicke's Lost Without You,
Oh,
but we
wow.
did such a different take on it that it's kind of become a new song entirely. And I also didn't realize so many people don't know that song, which is crazy to me because I think it was such a pivotal like song for the time period that it came out. And so I think it was kind of one of those like hidden gems that went under the radar. But my producer and I were actually on tour. We were in, I want to say it was San Diego. Yeah, or San Francisco, somewhere on tour. And we were just getting ready for a show. And we were listening to the radio or whatever he put on, Spotify playlist. And that song came up. And he was like, "You know what? I've always thought somebody should cover this, but it would have to be different. Like I'm not one to do covers unless I feel like I can do it drastically different than the artist and also still pay tribute to what made that song so good." I think if you just go off the rails, that's not really the point. Like people love that song for the song that it is, but you also can't just go, it's not karaoke. You don't want to just go out there and do the same thing they did. So I thought this could be a really fun chance for me to take a song that's so great, keep that kind of sexy, easy, like niche that it's in, because I think that's what makes that song so powerful, but put my Fia Nyxx spin on it. And I think I really executed that well because that song has done super well on like streaming platforms. It's gotten a lot of radio play. We had a video that we did that just came out for that, and that actually just won like #1 in the countdown, which
Nice.
is the music video contest. So that song just really, really came to life. But I am really proud of the rendition I came up with, and I'm also so glad my producer had that brilliant idea. So, but we also just work very good together, which I think is it's just fun. It's great to have a partner, whether it's a producer or a co-writer or someone that you can really just bounce ideas off, and someone who really trusts you and is willing to kind of push the boundaries as opposed to like, boxing you in. Or I'd worked with so many people in the past that you almost felt intimidated to like kind of throw a crazy idea out there. But Sam J. Garfield is very much welcoming. He's like, how much weirder can we get? What else around you? And I appreciate that as an artist. So that
Mhm.
song was an example of that.
Mhm. And certainly appreciate it as well too. And how about some of the other songs we haven't covered? And if there's other songs you like to feature, you can talk about those right now.
Yeah, so Don't Shame Me was another major one. That one probably was the most successful just from like a number standpoint. Again, lots of radio play. That one charted in crazy places, but that song was also fun because that was kind of my like bad girl anthem in the sense of it was like, especially at the time I wrote it, everything was just it felt so kind of dim and dark and scary. We couldn't leave our houses, and there was just so much going on at the time. And then there was like the Black Lives Matter thing that was happening, and so much suppression for women, and it was a wild time. And so Don't Shame Me was quite literally that. Like, I'm done taking your crap and you aren't going to shame me anymore. This is who I am. And it was very unapologetic, and it was just very much in your face, but in like, a classy way. I like to do
Yes.
and tasteful, but also like to the point. So that song is just it's a powerhouse, kick butt type of song. So if you're ever in the mood to like if you need that like kind of pick me up, a reminder of how badass you are, that's a song you should listen to. That's another one of my favorites from that album. AEIOU was incredible. That one has a really fun video too, really cute concept. So that one was super fun to write. I mean, honestly, all the songs on that album, they're so different from one to the next. But like I said, there's a streamline. They make sense together, which I think is important in an album. But the idea of like the red umbrella was that, the umbrella is the all-encompassing kind of, dome over what I am. And then
Hmm.
underneath is all these pieces and parts of, what is under the red umbrella. So yeah, that album in general is just it'll always be special to me no matter what I do next.
And don't shame me for being AEIOU. I'll tell you right now. So,
Yeah, exactly.
and where can we find all
Exactly.
your music
What
at,
was
Fia?
that?
Yes. Where can we
Absolutely.
find all your music at, Fia?
Absolutely. So my music is on Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, YouTube. All you have to do is type in Fia Nyxx. It's FIA, 2 words, second word NYXX. You can also follow me on Instagram at Fia Nyxx Music, and music is spelled MUSIX. And everything I do, my touring, tour dates, new releases, music videos, you can also just find on fianyxx.com. Again, it's FIANYXX.com.
And X marks the spot. We'll certainly look for that. So we'll do that. Yes. We're here with the multi-talented Fia Nyxx of Red Umbrella here on the Mike Wagner Show. Fia, just a couple more things. What else can we expect from you in 2023 and beyond?
Absolutely. So I'm already on to my next album, and this one I'm very, very excited about because once again, we are switching it up and I am going in a different route, a different genre, if you will. I have forever wanted to get more into the rock era. And that's actually all sides of rock. I like the southern rock. I like the more intense kind of like 90s rock. I like the
Hmm.
really old school rock and roll, like Bob Seger type vibe. So we're doing rock in all forms and trying to see how Fia Nyxx and rock collide. If you've ever seen me perform, when I perform, it all of the songs when we translate them to the live sound, they kind of take on a rock sound just because of the type of performer I am. So we thought, you know what, let's do it the other way around this time and start there and then see what happens. So we are already in production. I've already had several featured artists come through who are incredible and some pretty big names. So this is going to be something really incredible that puts us on the map even more so. But yeah, so we are deep in production for this next album and I'm really excited. I also have some really exciting performances coming up that I can't quite announce yet, but I will say for the people that loved Escape, get ready because there's a whole little Escape package and a remix coming out and it's tied to some really cool things that I'm about to do. So Escape's going to get another life. Escape was the song I did with Bobby Newberry and it really took off last summer and so we are revamping it and some really famous people are remixing it and we're doing like a whole campaign and we have some shows and some other really exciting things happening. So it's going to be a busy summer. And then I'm getting married. I don't know if you knew
Oh,
that.
congratulations.
Thank you. So I'm in the middle of wedding planning and it's been wild and so fun, but I'm getting married in January of 2024. So I'm also, deep in wedding stuff. But my fiance is amazing and supportive of all the music. And so it's a fun year and I'm ready to just enjoy it and reap all the benefits.
And we're certainly looking forward to that. And congratulations as well, too, in your marriage as well. So a big
Thank
one
you.
there. So, and also just a couple of things. What do you consider biggest influence in your career?
Oof, that's so hard to say. Um, I guess from like a musical standpoint, I mean, I think it's changed over time. I would honestly say right now, Freddie Mercury, because he is just everything that I would die to emulate. I think he is just musically incredible beyond anyone. He's so out there with his thoughts and creative and he's just so legendary. But I mean it used to be Christina Aguilera and then I loved Etta James for a long time. I think I just really admire I've never been one to just dote on one person. I think where I find my inspiration is from people who are living to their fullest potential. I think there's something so beautiful about somebody who's unafraid and like has no inhibitions and is just being who they are unapologetically and doing it well. So I think for me it's going to keep evolving, but it's always going to be the people, even the people who aren't super famous, but that show up like that. Like some people in my friend group and my inner artist circle, they inspire me beyond anything I've seen because of the work ethic, the talent, the heart, the drive. To me, it's really more about like the type of person that inspires me as opposed to like one musical influence.
And certainly indeed as well, too. Very amazing. What's the best advice you can give to anybody at this point?
Enjoy your life because I think we get so caught up in like what's our next move, like what are we doing for our careers, and it's like we're so as independent artists and just really I think this spans probably past the entertainment industry just into life in general. We're so caught up in like what we're supposed to be doing in this career. We're so career driven and we're just always on to the next. And it's like, that's great. I admire that. But sometimes you get lost in that and you forget to like live your life. And I know that that's probably doesn't even make sense. But to me, it's just something I've had to really work on. It's like live in the moment, enjoy the people that are around you, be in the moment, be present when you have the chance to be, when you're with a friend or a family member and you're having a conversation or, even it's in the little things. Like, don't skip over those moments trying to get to that next big moment, because newsflash, that big moment may not come, or when it does, it may not look like you think it does. Or you might just be like, "Oh, okay, this is great, but now what's the next one?" You're always going to be on to the next. So my biggest advice that I think has helped me the most is just to remember to enjoy the moment and enjoy your life, step for step.
And that's a very good point indeed, Fia. Once again, with Fia Nyxx, singer, songwriter, and very multi-talented dancer on the Mike Wagner Show with Red Umbrella. Fia, a very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely fantastic. Looking forward to having you again soon. Keep us up to date. Keep in touch. Love to have you back. Once again, what's your website? How do people contact you? Where can people purchase or check out your works?
Yeah, so if you want to purchase merchandise, if you want to see where I'll be touring next, if I'm coming somewhere near you, if you want to stream the music, really anything you need is going to be on my website, which is at fianyxx.com. It's FIANYXX.com. You can find me across all streaming platforms: iTunes, Apple Music, YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, pretty much any other streaming service you use, at Fia Nyxx, FIANYXX. It is 2 words, Fia Nyxx. And on Instagram, Fia Nyxx Music, and music is MUSIX. X marks the spot.
Yes, sir. Certainly indeed. Yes. And once again, Fia, a very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely amazing. Looking forward to having you again soon. Keep us up to date. Keep in touch. Love to have you back. Wish you all the best. And Fia, you definitely have a great future ahead of you, and strike a pose.
Thank you, Mike.